More than 2,000 international guests are already in Venezuela to accompany the Bolivarian people to the swearing-in of President Nicolas Maduro for the 2025-2031 term, this January 10th. In Palestine, Israeli forces killed 31 Palestinians in its latest attack on Gaza. In the western part of China, an earthquake of magnitude 7.1 has left at least 95 people dead. Hello, welcome from the south. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. More than 2,000 international guests are already in Venezuela to accompany the Bolivarian people to the swearing-in of President Nicolas Maduro for the 2025-2031 term this January 10th. This is what the head of state said in a meeting held on Monday in Caracas, capital of the country, with different government structures. Maduro assures that the Venezuelan revolution is based on the popular power and its inspiration is the epic of its hero. Our inspiration is Bolivar, not Washington. His words refer to the intense tour that the extreme Venezuelan right is making with threats to national interests by every far-right wing leader who has received them. And in Venezuela, the Minister of Interior, Diosdado Cabello, walked through neighborhoods near Miraflores and spoke about his perceptions in the midst of threats made by the far right.
Como siempre, el fascismo termina desconociendo los resultados del pueblo.
As always, fascism didn't recognize the electoral results. They wanted to use force, but failed. Now, we don't trust them. There is no good faith on their behalf. We are prepared for any circumstances. They bring mercenaries and we have to work against that. We have captured so far 125 mercenaries from 25 countries. They might enter the country, but it'll be difficult for them to get out. If they try to do something, we will respond accordingly. We don't trust their good faith. They say they will bring their force against the Venezuelan people, against the whole country.
On Monday, the Attorney General of the Republic of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, informed that 146 releases measures were ordered for detainees linked to the post-electoral violence of last July 28th. Through a statement issued by the Public Prosecutor's Office, they emphasized that on January 3rd, reviews of the cases were requested and agreed upon, including those involving persons linked to the post-electoral violence. The document also indicates that the addition of these new cases to those previously processed and reported in previous statements gives a total of 1,515 releases granted to date. Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa has taken a leave of absence and appointed Cynthia Gilbert as temporary head of state. The President of Ecuador has issued a decree stating that due to circumstances of force majeure caused by the electoral campaign, a new person has been appointed to head the government from the 9th of January to the 12th of the same month of 2025. Noboa also explained that his decision was due to the National Electoral Council statement and its ambiguous position on the leave of absence that the President should request during the campaign period. The leave of absence was requested amid a series of accusations against him for not fulfilling his mandate as required by the country's law. Although he asked for the leave this Tuesday, Noboa will only be out of office for 3 days of the election campaign. In Ecuador, also, the families of the 4 miners killed by a military patrol in Guayaquil were waiting for an apology from the Ministry of Defense. Instead, the judge in the case received a threat. Defense Minister Giancarlo Lofredo called a national press conference to express support for the armed forces again. Lofredo had assured that there was no operation until the cameras showed it. He also said that the children were stealing, which was never proved, and blamed their parents for not taking care of them. In this context, the government threatens Judge Tanya Lourdes Zambrano, assuring that the qualification of forced disappearance is unfair.
As I prove it with this document, this transmission is being made on January 6, 2025, within the established term in the schedule of maximum audience, and on national channel. thus complying with the sentence. Madam Judge, I have complied with what you ordered. However, we will go as far as possible to penalize your actions, since you have given way to political persecution, and I will not allow your sentence to be used to humiliate the armed forces that works for peace and respect of human lives.
We now have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Haiti, a police officer was killed by unidentified armed guns on Sunday night in Telma 39, Port-au-Prince. Local media report that the murder victim was identified as Jean Woody Villemont, who was assigned to the Financial Affairs Director of Judicial Police. In this context, the commander of support to the Haitian security mission asked the gangs to hand in their weapons and surrender after new military contingents from Guatemala arrived in the country. He also highlighted the strengthening of the country's police force and thanked for the international support and equipment provided. The Public Ministry of Peru filed two unconstitutionality lawsuits before the court following the approval of two laws that interfere with the independence of the prosecutor's work. On Monday, Attorney General Delia Espinosa informed that several laws have been passed, transferring the investigation of certain crimes, which are the responsibility of the Public Prosecutor's Office, to the National Police. She added that Law 32.107 specifies the application and scope of the crime against humanity and war crimes in Peruvian legislation. The other lawsuit filed is against Law 32.130, which strengthens the investigation of crime as a function of the Peruvian National Police and expedites criminal proceedings. The U.S. President Joe Biden attended a church service to meet with family members of the victims of the deadly New Year's Eve ramming crash in New Orleans. Biden, along with the First Lady, held a private meeting with the families of the 14 deceased survivors and local police forces. The U.S. head of state visited the historical St. Louis Cathedral to participate in the interfaith service. At the end of the homogeneous religious ceremony, Biden gave some remarks to the press. On Bourbon Street, locals set up a makeshift memorial where they left flowers and messages at the foot of the 14 crosses located at the incident site.
It was also home to so many people. We will support everyone who lives there, all the people of New Orleans, as they heal. And if there's one thing we know, New Orleans defines strength and resilience. You define it, whether it's in the form of this attack, or hurricanes or superstorms. This city and its people get back up.
In unity and hope, may this candle represent our country as a
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump insists Canada should be the 51st state after the resignation of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Trump said that the best thing for Canada would be to merge with the United States, saying that his country can no longer suffer the huge trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. He also stated that if the two countries join forces, there will be no tariffs and taxes would be greatly reduced. After being elected President of the United States in November's presidential election, Donald Trump threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods if they did not take action to stop trafficking of drugs and illegal migrants. And the director of OSHA's Operations and Advocacy Division stated at the UN that there are currently estimated to be more than 11.5 million displaced persons in Sudan, of which nearly 8.8 million have been displaced since April 2023. The 2025 Sudan Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan will require a record $4.2 billion to support close to 21 million people, according to SURNU. Beth Trujillo, Deputy Director General of the World Food Agency, stated that conflict and forced displacement remain the primary drivers of this crisis, which has been worsened by restricted humanitarian access. On Tuesday, the President of Sao Tome and Principe Carlos Villanova announced the dismissal of the government headed by Prime Minister Patrice Trovoada. According to the communication of the presidential office, the Prime Minister and his cabinet were not able to offer acceptable solutions. He also accused frequent periods of absence that did not bring any benefit to the country. In a meeting with his cabinet prior to the announcement, President Villanova had already stated his opinion on the management he had dismissed. Sao Tome is the smallest country in Africa, located on the Gulf of Guinea. It is a strong cocoa producer facing a demanding internal context with great challenges in economic and financial matters. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Palestine, Israeli forces killed 31 Palestinians in its latest attack on Gaza. The United Nations Humanitarian Relief Chief Tom Fletcher warned that efforts to save the lives of survivors in Gaza are in a critical state due to continued Israeli attacks on humanitarian workers. The UN official also denounced the attacks and assaults on the World Food Programme convoys and the collapse of law and order in the conflict-ravaged enclave. Local Palestinian authorities announced that Israeli forces continue to attack refugee areas and residences of Palestinian families.
Most of the residents are civilians, children and women, and there is no sign of any militant presence. And what has happened tonight is clear evidence that civilians are absolutely being targeted.
Our children were already asleep and there was no electricity. We were surprised by shelling without warning. An entire residential block, about 4 or 5 houses, most of them are populated of residents and displaced people. We were surprised by shelling without warning. Martyrs and wounded fell on the ground from the upper floors there, and there is total devastation throughout the area.
In Palestine, at least 7 children died in the last week as a result of the call to which Israel condemns thousands of infants in the Gaza Strip. The Norwegian Refugee Council highlighted that at least 1 million Palestinians are threatened by the arrival of winter in the region due to the conditions imposed by Zionism in the precarious refugee camps. The United Nations Public Works and Relief Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East warned in a statement that approximately 7,700 newborn babies are at risk of dying due to the low temperatures. Likewise, the Civil Defense Service in Gaza declared the catastrophic humanitarian conditions pushed some 2 million displaced people to live in tents unsuitable for protection against the winter. And Yemeni Armed Forces spokesman Yahya Sari confirmed on Monday that they successfully attacked a nuclear-capable aircraft carrier of the United States. According to Houthi forces, the tactical groups of their Air Force carried out a successful operation in the Red Sea. They claimed that the U.S. was preparing an attack which was aborted thanks to the successful air operation. In this context, the Yemeni government also reaffirms its support for the Palestinian cause and reiterates that the Israelis will not be able to rest only until the end of the genocide against Gaza and the recognition of the Palestinian state. Indonesia has been admitted as a full member of the BRICS bloc of developing countries, the group's presiding country, Brazil, announced Monday. Indonesia, as a major developing country and an important force in the global south, highly recognizes the BRICS spirit and has taken an active part in BRICS Plus cooperation. Indonesia's official entry into BRICS serves the common interests of BRICS countries and the global south and will make active contribution to the developments of BRICS. The organization was formed by Brazil, Russia, India and China in 2009 and South Africa was added in 2010. Last year the alliance expanded to embrace Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia and the United Arab Emirates. And on Tuesday, North Korean authorities confirmed the launch of a new intermediate-range hypersonic ballistic missile. The projectile was launched from a suburb of the North Korean capital, Pyongyang, and flew over 1,500 kilometers before landing precisely in the waters of a simulated target in the open sea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who oversaw the test, insisted that it had no negative impact on the security of the neighboring countries. The objective of such a launch was to develop national defense capabilities and strategic deterrence against potential rivals in the face of changing regional security environment. In the western part of China, an earthquake of 7.1 magnitude has left at least 95 people dead. The country's seismic network center reported that a 7.1 earthquake struck western China near Nepal, shaking Tingri County in the city of Shigase at a depth of 10 kilometers. At least 95 people have been reported dead so far. In this context, images of the moments prior to the earthquake have been shared through social medias. And Venezuela expresses solidarity with Chinese people after Xizang earthquake. The Venezuelan government has issued a statement expressing its solidarity with the People's Republic of China, the people of the Xizang Autonomous Region, and President Xi Jinping following the devastating earthquake that struck on Tuesday. The statement goes on to say that Venezuela, a strategic partner of the People's Republic of China, at all times stands with the Chinese people and expresses its willingness to cooperate and provide assistance in the areas necessary at this difficult time. And a huge part of the United States was hit with ice, heavy snow, freezing rain, and wind from a major winter storm on Monday, leaving 5 people dead. The storm disrupted travel and work for millions of people from the Ohio Valley to the capital, Washington. The polar vortex that plunged south over the weekend kept much of the country east of the Rockies under frigid conditions, making many roads treacherous, forcing school closures, caused widespread power outages, and flight cancellations. Around 175,000 users were without power from Missouri to Kentucky and Virginia, while more than 2,400 flights were canceled and thousands delayed. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.